Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the Allegheny Clarion Valley School Board Workshop meeting for June 13th, 2024. The AC Valley workshops are conducted virtually, and the link to access the workshop is always posted at the acvsd.org website. During this workshop, I will provide school board members with information that will help to clarify agenda items, and please remember to jump in and ask questions and make comments at any time. Just keep your mic off until you're ready to speak and then jump in. At this time, I will have Madam Secretary conduct the roll call.
Clifford Adams,
Here.
Patty Anderson,
Here.
Carrie Armagost, John Burke,
Present.
Brady Fight,
Here.
Diane Page,
Here.
Jeff Powell,
Here.
Eric Sundling,
Here.
and Kelly Terwilliger.
Here.
Thank you, Tammy. We have a number of agenda items that I will be reviewing this evening, but the big one is the 2024-2025 district budget. And in that budget, we have a number of items that we will be discussing this evening, and in specific, the fringe benefits. Just keep in mind that the development of the budget started on March 22nd with the meeting with the business manager and various department leads. We worked on the budget going into April and May. We had the preliminary budget out on display for 30 days, and we're ready to vote and approve the budget for submission prior to June 30th. Just keep in mind that it is part of the PDE school code that we have it submitted before the end of June for the new fiscal year starting in July 1st. Keep in mind that this evening I will touch on the benefits, and we'll have a better idea as far as what we're paying per month. Just keep in mind that we are part of the Roshini Healthcare Consortium, and our increases for 24-25 is 10.45%. We do have a sliding scale that, since it is a self-funded consortium, the less you use, the less the increases each year. So we're kind of right in the middle. I think we do pretty good as a school district, and our employees, we just want to continue to push for preventative care, obviously. With that being said, the 24-25 fringe benefits will be broken down by support staff, current and inactive, administration, current and inactive, meet and discussed. And then the fourth group will be the teachers, current and inactive teachers as well. And then we'll go into the vision, disability, dental, and life insurance. So this time, we don't have anybody from the public. And then next week, our face-to-face meeting, we will have Brady Fight and Amanda Hetrick present information about their PSBA Germany trip. Brady's obviously one of our local school board members, and Amanda Hetrick is the superintendent for Forest area, and a wonderful lady. So we look forward to hearing from them. And at this time, I'll open up for any kind of board concerns that we may need to address this evening. Okay, hearing none, we'll move right into the consent agenda. Letter A is a request from Rachel Paz and the Spanish Club to take a trip into the Dominican Republic. And Aaron, if you could go to the last page there and we'll just take a look at it. It's broken down. There's a cost of $250 for the van, $664 for subs, and the cost would be for the students would be $3,100. They will be doing fundraising activities. We already approved, if you can recall, a meeting that Rachel had with parents. She'll continue to try to get kids involved, but right now we got about 12 kids. There's a lot of interest in this trip. As you can see, it'll be March of 26. So they'll have some time to do fundraising and prepare for that spring trip. And it's through a tour company that Ms. Paz had used in the past. Mr. Kimmon's used. I've actually been on a trip with this tour company as well. It comes highly recommended. And probably the most important part of that is they do have security associated with it. So that when we went years ago to Puerto Rico, they had some security in the hallways at night. So it's a well-known company, and Rachel's done trips in the past. But you could take us back up, Aaron. Thank you. And then just moving down the consent agenda, you'll see under letter B, we do have one teacher, Jamie Armstrong. She also applied for a position, but she'd like to be a sub for next year, and we're always looking for subs. And then we have a request from employee 365 for unpaid leave. And then we have a couple parents that want to remain volunteers. We have Natasha Grabel and Juanita Stiglitz. They'd like to continue to volunteer in the PTO cheer program and such. And they're great parents, and we thank them for the time they put into the programs. In addition to that, we have a request from our volleyball coach to use the elementary and high school gymnasium on Saturday, August 24th. She will be doing a full day tournament and use the concessions for fundraising as well. If you recall, Coach Knox had done this years past, and I'm really excited about the enthusiasm that she's putting into the program. And I've already shared this information with James so the custodians can make sure the gyms are up and running. Before we move into the finance and purchase and the bulk of the agenda, I'll pause and see if there's any questions or comments about the consent agenda at this time. Okay, moving through finance and purchase, we will be discussing and paying the bills next week. We'll hear from Stacy in the cafeteria, but I'd like to direct your attention now to the page 2, letter I, the 24-25 budget in the amount of $18,871,332. And that's raising to the index. We had a discussion, and Andrea did a good job by presenting various budgets to you last week. That's the first budget since for a number of years that we're looking for a balanced budget, potentially additional revenue coming in that we can target some district-wide projects such as parking lots and other building renovations. Are there any questions right now about that budget, or Andrea, is there anything that you'd like to add into it at this time?
Everybody was given a copy in their email of the budget that will go to PDE upon approval. Our total expenditures are listed there, $18,871,332. Revenue, we're looking at $19,123,917. So if everything goes as planned, we're looking at an overage a little over $252,000.
Thank you, Andrea.
Andrew, I know it takes a lot of time to put together this budget, ran through the different scenarios requested from you, so I greatly appreciate you putting the work and time into it. Thank you.
In addition to that budget, we always have a motion in front of the school board just to approve all the federal programs and grants that are not only included, but will come across throughout the year. So for example, that's Title I, that's Title I-D, which is Title I delinquent. Title 2A, Title 4, we have a safety grant coming in, and then we also we're expecting right around $20,000 for a small rural schools grant that Miss Carrie Longo had written and received. So that's all part of the revenue, part of the federal programs coming through, and we just make that clear to the school board. In addition to that, letter K, you'll see we have the annual accounts. Just for full transparency, we have Pliget, which is our capital reserve account, the athletics, activity, cafeteria, non-interest bearing account, scholarship account, capital projects first, and the sweep account. And as you can see, they're number 2 through 9, they're all with Farmers Bank at this time. In addition to that, every year we always put the fringe benefits in front of the school board just to break it down and be fully transparent. You can see we'll start off with the medical insurance. As I alluded to earlier, we have a 10.45% increase from last year. Starting off with the support staff who are currently working and inactive, I'll draw your attention to the individual. If you can see, we have a breakdown with the medical. You can see last year compared to next year cost, drug cost from last year, this prescription drug cost to this year, and then the total. So it went from $763.29 to $843.05 for an individual per month. And then you'll see parent and child, parent and children. That's about the same. That's the total cost of $2,093.60 per month. And then it moves up a little bit into husband and wife, and then a family. And the family tops out at $2,470.81. And just slightly more, but similar, we'll move right into the administration, current and inactive. And that individual is just slightly more at $859.97. Parent and child and children, $2,136.93. Husband, wife, $2,396.46, and then a family's $2,520.20. And then Aaron, on to page 3, we have 2 more groups. We have the professional meet and discuss, and you can see those are very similar numbers. They start out as individual at $843, and then families $2,470.81, and then that's mirrored right below that with the teachers, who are not only current but also inactive. And just keep in mind those inactive staff members are people who have retired and it's written into the contract to cover them, and that varies from group to group. So moving on down through, we'll dive right into the insurance, which is through Vision Benefits of America, and this is for the faculty, administration, and meet and discuss. And you can see there's no change in that, which is a good thing. So for a single, it's $848 per month, and then a family $1786 per month for both groups. And then on page 4, disability, there's no change until February. So that's faculty at 1058, and then the administration meet and discuss at 1150. And dental insurance is right below that. That's from United Concordia. And there's some slight changes actually went down in this particular area in 23-24. Well, that should be 24-25. $25.02 for a single, $52.53 for an employee child. Employee spouse is $50.04, and then a family is $75.04. And then Cobra, that's where the folks could buy into it. They have their standard rate as well, which mirrors. And then that's broken down into professional and non-professional. And then moving down into the life insurance, which is from CM Regent Solutions, Sun Life. You can see that under the professional, it'll remain the same for 24-25. A single's $9.75 and a dependent's $3.40. Act 93 is $19.50 for a single, and a dependent's additional $3.40. Non-professional is $9.75 and $3.40 for dependent. And then just keep in mind there's an asterisk right there. Some of those folks could change from a $30,000 to a $50,000 coverage and pay some additional money, which would be the additional $585 that's notated. Then the superintendent's just slightly more at $39 per month for the 24-25 school year. I know we covered a lot of information in there, and it's pretty clear as far as the changes from last year to the 24-25 school year. But are there any questions or points of clarification that need to be made before moving on?
David, just to let you know, the life insurance is valid until June of 25.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Tammy. Okay, moving down through finance and purchase, letter M, you'll see a letter from Knox Law, which we use Knox from time to time for some general soliciting, but mostly for special education. And you can see that we got a letter from them. We're still waiting for Attorney Kuhar and Solicitor Shekel, but the current rate is $195 per hour for the attorneys, $180 for non-stakeholder attorneys, and then special education's $235. And just keep in mind that special ed was $220 last year, so they have a little bit of an increase, $5 increase in non-shareholders, and then it looks like a $5 increase for the shareholder attorneys as well. And we're hoping to have both Kuhar and Shekel on this for the voting meeting next week. And we'll continue to move forward. We always put it in front of the school board in June so that our fiscal year starts July 1st, that we'll be ready to go. Hopefully we don't need them, but when we do, they're all good attorneys. In addition to that, we have letter N. We have another, we approved this motion last year, but just to be fully transparent and continue to push the changes that we're hoping for is a multi-county school board resolution urging changes to the mandatory millage rebalancing requirements. Keep in mind that's part of the school code section 672.1, and it's being discussed in Harrisburg. Hasbro and 88 other school districts in the state are also pushing this. Not sure if it has any traction this year or not, but we'll continue to push. And really what that does is it eliminates the requirement for the rebalancing, and it puts it back onto the local school board to make that decision. And we can have a little bit more local control from each of those 4 counties outside of being stuck to the rebalancing. So we'd have, again, that would benefit all of the school districts in the state that are in multi-counties. In addition to that, we had the same proposal last year with Identity Studio. Lucas did a wonderful job, and we're making that recommendation that we stay with him. And I don't think there's any changes. I'm pretty sure that's the cost that'll be for the 24-25 school year. And then letter P at the bottom of page 4, you'll see Stacy Redding's making a recommendation to increase adult breakfast and lunch prices up to $2.40 and $4.35 for the 24-25 school year. And she's going to talk a little bit more detail about that next Thursday whenever she's in, but that's part of the peers example that she works on. Are there any questions about the budget, finance and purchase, fringe benefits, anything of the sort? Okay, page 5, we have a lot of work going on. We're not quite there yet, but the administrative team is going to be conducting interviews next week. So I'll dive right into it. Letter A, we have a letter of resignation from our history teacher at the West 2 facility, Joseph Beck. Joe's going back to work on a advanced degree of education, go back to being a full-time student. So we will need to advertise to fill that position. Fortunately, Joe's going to work until the end of the school year, so we'll have July to fill it, and we'll get started hopefully with that person in early August. In addition to that, we accepted Karen Hetrick's retirement letter last month. We posted to fill a K-12 music teaching position. Fortunately, we had 8 fantastic applicants. We've reviewed them. We brought in Jenny Lowry and the administrative team, and we're going to be interviewing for the top 4 candidates next Wednesday, and we will make a recommendation to hire on Thursday, the 20th. In addition to that, we had teacher retirements, and we're looking to fill 3 positions. We're going to add a teacher at the elementary as well. So we advertised for that. We had 38 applicants, some really, really good applicants with experience and, various certifications and such. We used a rubric to break that down, and we will be interviewing Monday morning, the 17th, and then also most of the day on Thursday, June 20th as well. And we're optimistic that we will also have recommendations for hire as well for those 3 positions. And then letter G, you'll see that we accepted Mary Rothen's retirement letter last month. We advertised for a high school math teacher. We had 4 applicants, and we will be interviewing 3 of those applicants. And we're working on background checks, and we'll focus in on the interview on Wednesday, the 19th. And we will have a recommendation for Thursday, the 20th, with the name and salary associated with their experience level. And then finally, you'll see letter H. We're working to fill the business manager position that will soon be vacated. We had 12 people apply for the position, and we will be interviewing 3 of those applicants next Wednesday evening. And we're going to do our best to have a name in front of the school board for Wednesday and start making that transition. There's a lot of work that we're putting in, but at this time, are there any questions or points of clarification needed for personnel? Okay, moving into instructional services. The first motion we have in front of you is a settlement resolution agreement and general release between a parent of student 14540 in the Allegheny Clarion Valley School District. This is associated with a 504 claim that we have. In addition to that, we have a list of graduating seniors from the AC Valley class of 2024. And then we also have an additional list in your Google Share Drive with the students that we graduated at the West 2 program as well. And we're working on 2 more graduates that will be ready for graduation and a potential release on June 20th as well. So we're excited on that program. We're still working out some of our kinks and credits and accountability for those students, but the supported rite of passage has been better than I could ever expected, and a team up there, and that team approach, we're going to do a lot of good for kids all the way across the Commonwealth. Now this time I'm going to hit pause and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jordan, and he will not be here in July due to a conflict in his schedule. So he actually took the initiative and got out in front of the handbooks, and he's going to be working us down through some changes that him, his team, as well as myself and Officer Sigel, Officer Sittler is making for you. So, Bill?
Thank you, David. I'd like to start with the coach's handbook, just to make sure that everybody's aware. There are not a lot of changes in any of the handbooks, but in regard to the student athletic handbook, the cyber handbook, and the high school teacher handbook, there are no changes at all. Just dates and updating personnel and things like that. As far as the coach's handbook, I went in and Dave Sherman and I discussed this point right here, and what we added, just so that the coaches are aware. We already had number 35 in the bigger print there. All coaches must complete the required PIAA and PDE coaching education requirements. What we added was that these should be complete by August 1st of each year, with a hard copy provided to the athletic director. I added 2 bullet points there that the concussion in sport and sudden cardiac arrest are required each year, and the fundamentals of coaching and first aid, health, and safety are required for all coaches for a one-time completion. We actually, we also started a file at the high school. We notified all the coaches of our change as far as requiring that as of that date on August 1st. And we are already starting to get some of those turned in. So that's it for the coaches handbook. Let's, Aaron, if we can, go to the high school student handbook. And I'll start there with the first one under cell phones and other personal communication devices in school. And I'd like to explain exactly why we added this sentence. Students are not permitted to contact parents in violation of this policy. Last year, we had unbelievable number of students that, the process is pretty clear that if you feel like you're getting ill or just not feeling well, that you need to go see the nurse, go through that process. The nurse evaluates the student and makes recommendations whether they should go home or not. We even call the parents in those particular cases. This year, we've had a number of students that never even bothered to see the nurse, snuck into the bathrooms, contacted their parents on their own, and lo and behold, parents just show up in the front office asking to take a student home. So we added this sentence because, we feel if the student can't follow a process that we've never denied a student to come down to the office and contact a parent, if they can't follow that simple policy, then it falls within the discretion of the handbook as far as discipline goes. Okay, that's on page 10. Moving on to page 13, I think it is. We have there, and this is in regard to our change with focus. When we move to focus, for some reason, the data people can't seem to figure out how to work our grades correctly, especially the weighted grades. So what we were doing before is we were having teachers add the weight each quarter to the grades and put it in a grade book. And it would be reported on report cards then as a weighted grade. What we're going to do now is we are going to add that weight at the very end of the year. And the grade point average then will be determined at that time as well. The reason we're doing that is because before, what Focus wanted to do was take that weighted grade that was already added in and reweight it. And it was just really causing a lot of issues. And we don't know why. We've met with them a number of times, but it would mean that they have to redo something within our program to be able to do it. And they've not figured that out yet. So at this time, we added this so that students know when they get a grade each quarter, that grade will not be weighted, but the final grade will be weighted and grade point average determined based upon that. Okay. Page 20 is the attendance flow chart. And I believe that I showed that to you as a board last month. And really, again, there's no information that's really changed here. All this does is make it a little bit easier, I believe, to follow what action happens depending on the number of days absent. As I mentioned before, the problem occurs when a student starts to get up around 11, 12 or more absences. And there's confusion there because a student could have 12 absences with a doctor excuse, and it wouldn't fall into this particular category as far as discipline goes. They are permitted 10 parent excuses, and after 10 parent excuses, that's when every one of them need to be provided by a doctor. So this is just an effort to try to clarify the actions related to the number of days absent and make it a little easier for parents to follow. Okay. Moving on to the next section, which is harassment. Again, nothing really has changed here. Officer Sittler and I sat down. We looked at what the legal definition of harassment is. We looked at our definition, tweaked it a little bit. We added a few things there under harassment occurs when a person does those things. A lot of people don't understand that, a lot of people say bullying. My kid's being bullied. when names are being called, it's bullying, and it's not bullying. It always starts with harassment. Harassment is the correct definition of what happens when somebody's teasing. It can turn into bullying after a period of time when somebody does not stop, and when they try to intimidate or use power over a person. But we just wanted to clarify those things as well, and get rid of some language that needed updated. Okay, moving on to the next section, which would be terroristic threats. And again, the same thing. We looked at the legal definition. We added in there, referred to policy 236.1 as far as what actions would be taken by administration when we get reports of terroristic threats or somebody sending terroristic comments. And the numbers there kind of outline what the threat team does as far as actions regarding those types of things. Other than that, really, there are no changes there as well. It's just rewording some of those things. And then finally, under drug and alcohol policy, what we had in the handbook prior was confusing and outdated because, number one, it didn't really recognize the fact that we, as a district, don't have much as far as options for alternative education if somebody was to bring drugs or alcohol to school. Prior to like 3 years ago, we did send some students to pathways for things like that. If they brought drugs, alcohol, dangerous weapons like knives or things like that. But pathways no longer takes our students for alternative ed purposes. So really, there are no options for us around here. The district does utilize an online alternative ed program. It's not very effective, but it does kind of meet the guidelines for disciplinary action. The one piece that we added there, and you can see it highlighted, and this is in regards to the beverage that I brought to the board and showed that one evening. No open containers of any kind are permitted in school. Sealed drinks for lunch and sealed water bottles are acceptable. What we plan on doing is we will put out a message to the community the week or so before school starts, making sure that parents know that the kids just can't stroll in with, open soda bottles, cups with who knows what in it, because we've had a lot of concerns about some student behavior this year, and whether or not there may be something more in those open containers that they bring into school. So a student can certainly bring a sealed drink and use it at lunch. There's no problem there. They can bring water bottles that are sealed, things like that. But we are not going to permit open bottles anymore. Any questions regarding any of those changes in the handbook?
Dr. Jordan, I have one question. If you're not calculating the incentive courses until the end, what if a student needs a transcript earlier in the year for college verification? Will you guys just have to hand do that?
Yes. Actually, this past graduating class from last May, or just this last May, we had to hand calculate and hand add all of those scores onto the transcripts that we sent to students. It's a real pain.
Kelly, I'll jump in too, because I was part of that discussion with Mrs. Logue, and she had alluded to the fact that most colleges do not accept weighted grades because everybody's weight's a little bit different. So they want the standard grades and the weight associated with it, not the weighted portions that we do locally, because every school district handles that a little bit differently.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I thank you for your attention. David?
Thanks, Bill. Good job on those changes.
So I do have a quick question here. So on the open containers there, Bill, so does that mean that students are not allowed to bring reusable like water bottles to school then?
They would, but we would expect that they would fill them up in our refill stations.
Okay, so if they want to bring a reusable bottle, it's fine. It just has to be empty when it comes to school then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Does that need to be clarified? You know what I mean? Like, should that be a statement in there that because I agree with Brady. I think that it should be permitted because otherwise your trash costs or trash piece is going to go up as well. So allowing them to use a refillable bottle of some sort, I think is environmentally responsible. But I was trying to figure out how to meet what your goal was and allow that. So maybe an additional statement at that time that reusable bottles will be acceptable, but must be brought to the school empty and used filled at the recharge stations.
I can add that to my message. And when I meet with the students the first day or so, I can emphasize to them that, I encourage those water bottles of that type. But that's specifically why we have refillable stations now at the high school with the filtered fountains. It's specifically for that purpose, to reduce trash and waste in our landfills, and yet provide kids with clean, clear, cold water.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll
Thanks,
make
Patty.
sure.
I appreciate that as well. Bill, I'd add it. I'd put it down on the book as well. Just put a sentence down.
Okay.
Okay, jumping back onto the agenda, you'll see we have a motion down there to approve a non-disclosure agreement between the Commonwealth and Rite of Passage and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. What we're doing with this piece is we're working in conjunction with the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation and Rite of Passage. So we just want to be able to share information and support students at the West 2 program, not only during the day, but also upon release as well. So they're hoping, potentially tie that into our vocational programming and to open up that line of communication. That's been one of the hiccups is what we can or cannot share between the entities. There's been some misinformation shared in the past as far as violating FERPA or HIPAA associated with it. And it's really not. We're all up there working for the best interests of the students. So this agreement will only enhance the success of the students upon release. And then we also have, and Michelle's working on it if we don't have it in the shared Google Drive, but we'll have an end of year enrollment class size data and staffing for 23-24 available for you as well. Okay, we don't have anything from PSBA as far as policy updates. James will be here next week for facilities. We have a motion under transportation to remove Jen Bobbert from Bobbert Busing. She's no longer a driver for them. And then you'll also see we're going to add a motion to advertise to fill route number 4. That's the one that Marsha Pollock had driven for over 30 years, and she had retired. Lori's been working with local contractors, and there's a handful of contractors who are interested, actually have buses, but unfortunately do not have bus drivers. So outside of waiting till the last minute, I'm making a recommendation that we advertise to fill that position. Lori has had some interest from local contractors from other school districts. So you'll see that next week. There will be an addition under transportation. We'll talk a little bit next week about the reports, the Career Center Intermediate Unit report. We have a thank you letter from Tracy Quayle, and then any kind of committee updates. So at this time, is there any old business or new business that the school board has that we need to be discussing at this time?
So I do have a quick question here, David. With the amount of people that are leaving the district due to retirement or whatever the reason may be, Are we doing any sort of exit interviews with these individuals to see how we can improve our workplace and our culture here?
Yeah, good question, Brady. We actually have a exit interview that or exit interview questionnaire that Tammy Thompson sends out to the employees. We did meet the with two of the retirees. I mean, a lot of they're just getting close to retirement, so they were able to provide us feedback as far as trying to improve that process and what we could do differently, because the exit interview question error that we have is general, and we met with a couple of teachers that are retiring and provided us with suggestions as far as having a separate exit interview for teachers or maybe people retiring other than people just leaving.
Okay. All right. As long as we're meeting with these people to see how we can improve what's going on here within the district, I think that'd be good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't really met with everybody, to be quite honest with you, Brady, but we did have a meeting with a couple of teachers that provided some really good feedback that I think we can improve on that part of it. But we've been working on it. Okay, are there any other questions or comments before we move into an executive session for the annual School Safety and Security Coordinator report? That's part of Section 1309, Part B of the School Code. Once I present this information to the school board, and a lot of the information is confidential, I will then submit it into the Department of Education along with the documented meeting notes and confirmation that we had it. So at this time, I will go ahead and conclude this meeting, and school board members, just note that you have a separate link in your email and on your calendar that will take us into that other executive session. So thank you all and have a great evening.